Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm your host, Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And we are your chatty Cathys here today to talk to you about something. Wait, this one is... Oh, we're here to talk to you about medical mysteries.
Yeah.
That's right. And possibly movie tangents, because I was just saying to Kelsey that I've just been watching a lot of movies, including the one she wanted me to watch for Patreon, just to have someone to talk to about it, kind of. So we'll let you know when that drops too. Yeah. And this is the last one we're recording before Kelsey goes on her trip, so we hope we'll be, back with our regular scheduled programming and all that, but if not, we'll let you know.
Yeah, we might have to skip a week. We'll see. Life gets in the way sometimes of stuff. It's hard between editing and editing your notes and picking cases, and then both of us working full time. It's hard sometimes.
Well, yeah, exactly. If it's like you're off work for a week or whatever, then you can't always take your podcast work with you.
Yeah.
At least not if it's not your full-time job. Donate on Patreon. Which we will, yes, like we said, we'll be dropping some more stuff on there soon. Yes, stay tuned. Hope you like the rewatch, recaps, reacts videos, because I think they're fun.
I really enjoy them.
Yeah, sometimes you watch something that you might not have picked, which reminds me of like when we would say that when we did stuff like different ones in book club, where you're like, I don't know, it was an interesting book, but I might not have like picked it up on my own or whatever. Which I was viscerally reminded, by the way, of one of our book club books, because they mentioned it came up on The Office Ladies of all things. How weird is that?
Really?
Yeah, they're like reading these things
pretty random.
I know. I'm like, well, they love their little tidbits and stuff, and I think Angela was reading something off the old scripts, I guess, and it had like fact of the day about their like crew members, and one of them was like, this person's favorite book is, and like that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like one of their crew members, they were like talking about them, and they're like, and their favorite book is like the Poisonwood Bible, and I was like, wait, I know that name. Why does that sound so familiar?
Yeah, I don't think I finished that one.
But it was a book club book, and it sucked.
Yes.
I was like, wait, I hated that book. It was about some like, missionaries from Georgia that went to some African country, and
to teach them about farming. It was like, it was a bit much.
God.
Yeah,
it was. I was like, it wouldn't be my favorite book anyway. But to each their own.
I think I had completely erased it from my memory, because
a
lot of the books on like the second half, I just kind of petered out my interest in them a lot.
Oh yeah, that is bad, because I like try to finish any movie or book I start, but it's bad when it becomes painful. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, one of my favorites we ever read still has to be probably The Perfume Collector. I think that was one of, if not the first one we might have done. I still really love it. I have it on my Kindle.
That was one of, I remember that was Chris's book selection. It was like her favorite book, I think she said. Yeah, it was beautiful. It had like Yeah,
I just
beautiful
liked the
perfume descriptions
interweaving,
and stuff.
yeah, the interweaving storylines between different like
Mm.
generations and everything. I really
Oh
enjoyed that.
yeah.
And it was kind of a mystery.
Oh.
You're like, who's this rich, wealthy woman, and why did she leave all this stuff to this woman that like doesn't really know much about her?
Oh
Like, there's
yeah.
kind of a bit of mystery to it too. Yeah.
Oh, well, if you like those, you might like this author I've been getting into recently that uh the Outlander author also likes. So, But her name is Susanna Kieransley, I think is how you say it. But yeah, it's got some beautiful imagery. Like I asked my mom to get me this one that I couldn't find it at the library or anything to read it. It's called The Winter Sea. And
Oh.
uh, I'm like ooh, they go to a castle in Scotland, and it's like, and so that's the picture on the front is like this castle like on a cliff and stuff. I'm like, oh,
Of
it's so
course it is.
pretty. But then she'll do like, yeah, she'll sometimes interweave, well, oftentimes like a modern story with some historical characters that, and you're going back and forth between like the two stories, and like say
Oh,
like
yeah, I like
someone who
that.
castle in the day, and then like people exploring the castle now or whatever, someone going back there like modern times. Yeah, they can be, yeah, they're really good. I've really enjoyed them. But
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah, I don't know.
I probably would like that. I was reading a mystery kind of thriller book that was like that. It was about I think like
Oh.
a kind of wayward boys school. So like it was kind of kids that are like delinquents a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was like a male boarding school, and I think it was like the
Okay.
1970s or 80s. And then it was going back to like 1930 when it used to be like a hospital or something.
Oh,
And
neat.
or more so like orphanage, something like that. And they were
Oh,
like
probably
going
something
back and forth.
depressing.
Yeah, it was going back and forth because they're like, yeah, one of the nurses supposedly like killed one of the children. So the like kids in the 70s or 80s, whatever it was, were like trying to
Oh,
solve this mystery of like why this nurse had done this. At the same time, you're like
cool.
reading from the nurse's point of view, like the story. And then
Nice.
at the end, it just magically had the kids from the future time travel to the past and prevent multiples of
Oh.
the characters dying in the 30s. And I'm like, wait, what? What's going on? There's time travel now? Oh, okay. And then it was like,
Oh
oh, weird.
no.
And I was like, oh, I didn't really like that. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'm done the book. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it
It
seems like
was
a bit of
like,
a cop out.
ow.
Like,
Yeah.
like it was all a dream, blah blah blah. Like you can't think of an ending, kind of ending, but uh,
Yeah, I don't know. It
hmm.
was a little weird because there was like none of those elements really in it.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You should be like, as an author, planting the little seeds throughout. If
Well, the
stuff
only
is
thing they
always going to
had
be
that
a
was
recurring element. Yeah.
time travel-y that was, I guess, going on was they were able to write like they could carve into like the floorboards. Like she could carve like messages, and then obviously they're at the boarding
Oh.
school, so they would see it like the next day kind of appear. But they were able to carve like some
Uh,
messages back. But it wasn't like full-blown time travel of like we've opened a portal and I can climb through it. It's like, okay,
yeah,
yeah,
because there was a tiny bit of that in that bodies or whatever, because different cops throughout the different decades, every 30 years or whatever, kept
yeah,
finding the same body. And I do remember
yeah,
one had like written his name in a brick or something. And so, like, then
yeah.
the ones further on could see that, but that's because it had been carved previous in time. It wasn't like,
Yeah, but they were doing it from the past into, or I guess from the future, like timeline into the
oh,
past. She could also
it's
like
hard to talk
receive
from the
them
future
back.
into the past.
Yeah, it
Outlanders
was,
had that,
yeah, it was a little
come
weird.
up.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like by the time I got to them and they like the ending, I was like, okay, I was
Hmm.
really loving this book until like the last 6 chapters. It's like, God damn it.
Weird.
And I was like, and it's a book I was only
Hmm.
reading at work, so I was reading it like 3 to 4 days a week for like 2.5 months. And I was like, I've literally spent months reading this book, and no, I don't like the ending.
Oh no. So it's just
Yeah.
stayed in your lunchroom kind of thing? We have a little Lending
Yeah, I just had
library
it
in our
on my
lunchroom.
Kindle, and like that's all I was reading it on.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I was just like, oh, this sucks. So I was like, I spent all this time reading this one and then didn't like the ending. I was so excited because I was almost done it.
Yeah, that's more disappointing than I've been kind of hating this one. I'm reading to Pat the whole way through because it's not a great written book set in Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms. It's just like,
Aw.
I don't know, not only a lot of hard to say names, but then just like,
Mm.
yeah, different stories. And they're like, okay, well, then we're done with that story, and then we go on to this other person in this other place, and I'm like having a hard enough time following it without it just being
Jeez.
like, now on to the next. You're like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah. That'd be annoying too.
Yeah, and I feel like we've been reading it for like over a year because
Oh, jeez. That's a really long time.
I used to read to him more when, I don't know, now I podcast and I
Yeah.
guess sometimes at our old house it was harder to watch TV while you were cooking, so I'd read to him while he was cooking and stuff too, because you had the wall in between you. But now
Yeah.
it's such a nice open, like you can just watch TV while you're cooking and baking, and so we do.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's fair.
but anyway, let's give the people what they want.
Yeah.
We hope you're all well and good. We hope you're all well. Thank you, everybody who rated our last episode on Good Pods and everything
Ooh,
already.
yeah. Nice.
That's always nice. Yeah, it's always nice to get immediate response.
Yeah. The feedback is always nice.
It's true. We don't feel like we're shouting into the void. But...
Yeah. I was gonna say, hello, is anybody out there?
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna shout at us about today? No, I'm just kidding.
I was.
Oh my god, you froze, and for a minute I was like, "Oh, she really is mad."
Oh
It was
no.
just, but the video froze, and you're like, just
no.
stuck there for a minute. Anyway,
I have one that I had, I guess, picked out. It was one I ran across probably last time we were doing like bizarre bodies or something like that.
When you
I
did
had run
the water
across
lady.
Yeah, I ran across this one on one of the lists like that and was like, I'm gonna save this one for a different episode.
Oh my gosh, wow. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, and then it just so happened to coincide because it has to do with like freezing cold temperatures and stuff, and I was like, oh god damn it,
Oh
like
my
we're so
god.
cold here right now. It's close enough, like it's minus 40, like within a few degrees of that Celsius, so that's the same Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So everybody like knows what minus 40 feels like. I don't know specifically what the temperature in this story is.
If you're unlucky enough to, yes.
Maybe. It's very, very. Oh, I do have the temperature. It's pretty cold involved, and I was like, oh, this just so happened to coincide.
It does.
A cold freeze kind of we were having this last week or so.
Yes, this cold snap is disgusting. I mean, I'm like, I know I live in Canada, and then I moved to, this is a little bit of a northern part of Canada than I grew up in. But then, like, people even on Reddit the other day, why do you guys complain every time it gets to these temperatures? Because it's minus goddamn 40, and you gotta, like, plug your car in and, like, cover every inch of skin if you go outside. And, like, we're, like, nothing closes down except for, like, maybe the bus. It's like, that's
we were talking at work about how each of us, you'd go outside and you'd all of a sudden like be gasping for breath because the air is just so cold, you can't breathe through your mouth. You have to be like, okay, start breathing through your nose. And the one day I almost started hyperventilating because I couldn't and my nose, it was too cold in my nose too, and I'm like, I can't get air, and I thought I was gonna
Yes.
pass out in the parking lot leaving work because I couldn't get like air
Don't
going through, and
blame
I'm not even asthmatic or anything, so
I was gonna say, yeah, I almost asked my friend at work if it bothers her because she's had a lung transplant, and I was noticing it
oh
a
god.
couple days where, like, yeah, you go outside even for a few minutes, and then you're just like, whoa, it like took my breath
Yeah.
away. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, that bugs me, and then I have to take my puffer, and when I used to have to take the bus home and have to walk home a few blocks, yeah, it definitely would
Yeah.
definitely bother me, but. God damn it!
Mhm.
I'm all hibernated up today. Didn't have to go
Yeah.
anywhere because we're recording on
That's
Sunday.
nice.
Yeah.
I did go to work, but it is a little
Oh
warmer
yeah.
today. But I have the
Still gross.
story of Jean, I think it's pronounced Hilliard. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, this is back on the night of December 20th, 1980, when 19-year-old
Oh.
Jean Hilliard is driving back home to her house in Langby, Minnesota. Minnesota. Her worst Minnesotan
She
accent.
can't resist.
Uh,
Yeah. Don't get me started. There's been drama going on with wine and crime
oh
lately.
no.
Oh my God. Yeah, one of them's been opinionated about certain current events, and according
Um,
to some subreddits, that it's like possibly breaking the podcast apart from the inside.
oh jeez.
Isn't that
Aw.
crazy? Hence, I'm just gonna say it. I don't like ever to talk about politics or you can't.
Yeah, we try not to.
Well, no, and it just anyway. Yeah, it's scary.
There's
Yeah, even current events and stuff. You can be like
yeah.
canceled for having like the wrong opinion on or
There's
whatever.
so
But
many political podcasts. If you want to listen to somebody talk
yeah.
about politics, go listen to a political podcast.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I shouldn't even like bring it up, but I was just like, oh damn. I heard
Oh
some
shoot.
murmurings online and I was like, whoa, that'd be crazy. But
Oh
anyway.
damn. That sucks.
Exactly. We're gonna try to be as unproblematic as we can be.
Yeah. Or we'll just save that for Patreon. No.
Exactly. Anything's behind the paywall is
Yeah.
a little bit loose lips.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Minnesota. And so she was hanging out with her friends. And she's driving back. It's pretty late at night, I think. She's driving, she hits an icy patch and loses control. I think it was
Mm.
her dad's truck or something she was driving.
Oh
And
no.
she ends up skidding into the ditch. She tries to back the vehicle out, but there's no way for her to get out of the ditch. And it's the 1980s, like there's no cell phone. She has no way to contact anybody.
Damn.
So Jean ends up deciding to leave the vehicle and walk to a friend's house that she knows the area. She knows it's just a few miles away.
Okay.
So
That's good.
yeah. She's wearing just these like cowboy boots, a coat, and mittens when she steps
Oh.
out of the car and into the minus 30 degrees Celsius or
Oh
minus
my
22
God.
Fahrenheit winter
Oh
air.
no.
Very cold.
I'm
Um,
already terrified for her. Okay.
yeah. Nobody dies. I'll put that in there.
Oh my
Okay.
God. Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. It's a happy ending. Not far into her walk, Jean ends up tripping and she loses consciousness. Um,
What?
yeah. The friend's house that she was walking to, his name's Wally Nelson, and he was a friend of Jean's boyfriend. Jean's boyfriend's name was Paul. So, Wally Nelson and Paul were like pretty good friends. I think it might have even said they were best friends. So, Wally knew Jean like pretty well. So she would have been comfortable like walking to his house, and everything.
Okay, her boyfriend's best buddy, essentially.
Yeah. Hi.
Speaking of best buddies, here comes
Yeah.
Gordo.
My best fur buddy is. Are you gonna be chill, or how are we gonna have problems?
Gordo the Great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so she's walking to his house. Well, that's when she trips and loses consciousness. Little did Jean know that she had actually made it to their front yard before she had tripped. So she's like lying in their yard.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, this sounds slightly familiar, but I'm still like, I have no idea what's coming. What is going to happen?
She ends up lying there unconscious for 6 hours in the snow, out in the freezing minus 30 Celsius or minus 22 Fahrenheit, like cold winter air.
With like a skirt on and cowboy boots?
The only clothing she was described as wearing is cowboy boots, a coat, and mittens. I don't know about like pants or stuff.
Let's hope there was something. Yeah.
I hope
so. Definitely not appropriately dressed to be out in this weather. Like not in a snowsuit, not wearing snow pants. Like
yeah, exactly. Okay. So she lies in their yard for 6 hours before they end up spotting her, and they rush to help her. Wally Nelson, the friend, says, quote, "I grabbed her by the collar and skidded her into the porch." Nelson would report years later in Minnesota public radio interview, "I thought she was dead, froze stiffer than a board, but I saw a few bubbles coming out of her nose." The Nelson struggled to fit Jean's frozen body into a vehicle, but eventually, using a friend's, they drove the completely frozen Jean to the hospital about 10 minutes away from their house. It's like
Christ.
basically said they couldn't move her. She was frozen solid. They said basically like frozen as like a steak or like a roast in the freezer. Like there was no moving any muscle in her body, nothing.
She was a person-sicle.
Yeah, as cliche as you can imagine, or like cartoony as that would look. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, or like someone who has like rigor mortis, deep set.
Yeah.
And
so doctors at the Foston Hospital had very little hope for Jean. They repeatedly tried to start an IV in her arm, but all of the needles broke off in her skin as it was too frozen.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Despite their reservations about her condition, they still chose to try and warm her up using their only method that was now available. Just these random heating pads that they had. They were just going to wrap her up in these in blankets and basically just wait it out and see if she was still alive by the end.
Because you'd have to do it so slowly if they're that cold. You can't do it like super fast or you can hurt them even worse, I think.
So, miraculously, by mid-morning, Jean Hilliard woke in spasms. These are a few quotes from the doctor. I think it might have been just one of the doctors that treated her, saying, "I can't explain why she's alive," Dr. George Sather said. He told the New York Times, "She was frozen stiff, literally. It's a miracle." The reaction didn't appear until 2 or 3 hours after she started thawing out. The body was cold, completely solid, just like a piece of meat out of the deep freeze.
Yeah. There's something stuck together, your hamburger, you gotta smash it against the edge of the counter to get it apart.
Pry a knife in between and try and pop it apart.
Oh my god. Crazy.
So Dr. Sather recalled that Jean's pulse, which they could hardly detect through her frozen skin, was just 12 beats per minute. And her temperature was too low for a thermometer to even register. And the thermometers they were using had a low reading of about 10 degrees below normal body temperature. So they know she was like colder than that. But it was basically like the reverse of maxing out. I don't know if that's still considered maxing out, the thermometer, if it's like too low, but
Oh,
yeah, it was past the
yeah.
scale in like the wrong direction. So
Like her body
um
must have just been like whatever bodies do when they go into hibernation in those animals.
yeah, I did run across a little bit. One of the sources started going in, like a doctor was explaining what actually happens when people kind of go, or even some animals when they do this. So yeah, I have that. I thought it was a
Wow.
little interesting too. Um so yeah, her pulse is just like 12 beats per minute. She's super cold. But after several hours wrapped in an electric heating pad, she was alive and conscious.
Oh my
Um,
God.
there was an article from NPR News, from John Enger, and they had some good quotes and stuff that was basically Jean's side of what she remembers from that night.
Oh, okay, cool.
She said, I had gone into town and met some friends. I headed home about midnight. She took a shortcut on an icy gravel road just south of Langby. Her dad's Ford LTD had rear-wheel drive and no anti-lock brakes. It slid into the ditch. She knew a guy down the road, so she had started walking. She said, what I thought was just a cold night was a dangerously cold night.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said, I'd get over one hill thinking his place would be there, but it wasn't. I was more frustrated than scared. Oh, you can't rub your face on the mic. We're just like, pet
I might
me.
have caught a little bit of that noise.
You're so sweet. Um, yeah, so she was more frustrated than scared, and 2 miles later, she finally saw her friend's house through the trees. Then she says everything went black.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
which I thought was interesting because I was wondering if she like understood that she was at her friend's house. Like, did she know that she had made it that far? And I guess she did. Because a lot of the
Wow.
other sources kind of implied that she didn't even know that like she had basically made it. She was like 20 feet away from having made it the
Right.
whole way. Yeah.
Because, I mean, she's obviously in not good shape at that time. And then, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
was it also dark at the
Yeah,
time?
she had left the party with her friends at like midnight. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
this is probably at
Right.
least before 3 a.m.
Can you imagine? Yeah, you're
Gordo?
just like, you're
Okay.
like, oh, I'm good.
Your butt and your tail needs to not hit the mic. Yeah.
Um,
Uh
yeah, it's just like, you, it's already dark, and then you're already in dire straits, and then I don't know.
yeah.
I could definitely
No cell
see.
phones. Like,
Yeah, and then like even if you do see it, if it's a big giant yard, and you're like, I'm almost there, I can make it, and then like I don't know, you
then you
feel with
slip.
relief, and then your body just like gives up. I could see that
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Um yeah, so everything goes black. Later, people told her that she'd made it to her friend's yard, tripped, and crawled on her hands and knees to his doorstep. They said that she
Yeah.
lay there for 6 straight hours with her eyes frozen wide open.
Oh my
Hilliard doesn't
God.
remember any of that. Yeah, her eyes were frozen open and like her eyeballs were frozen. Um,
Oh, thank God she doesn't like remember that then.
yeah, she doesn't remember it at all.
Oh.
Uh, this I thought was interesting because I only found it in one place. Uh, she said, quote, I was black from the waist down, and when your tissue turns black, there's usually no coming back. They told my parents that they didn't
Oh.
think I'd make it, and if I did, I'd lose both my legs for sure. But
Yeah,
by
yeah,
yeah, because she had full blown frostbite, like on her
right.
legs and everything.
And then like it's
Uh,
black. That tissue is like dead. Like
yeah, supposed
that's
to be.
the
That's
thing.
their running theory. Like,
Right.
um,
Dang.
But by noon, miraculously, she was talking coherently, and in a handful of hours, she'd gone from a block of ice to a scared teenager who was worrying about her father finding out that his car was in a ditch.
Oh my god. I think you're
So,
fine.
right? You almost died.
Aw,
Some sources
yeah.
said that she had gone home that day, but the one that had all the stuff from her point of view, it said that she talks about how she remained in hospital for 7 weeks so that she could be monitored, and she had to relearn how to walk
Oh,
normally again.
that
But they didn't have to
makes
amputate or
sense.
anything.
Yeah. I can just imagine how painful that would be. The other night,
Yeah,
my toes were like so cold that on the way home, they were like starting to unthaw on the way home. And like, I
it
think someone
hurts.
told me, yeah, I think someone told me that is sign that you've been like a little bit frostbitten before if it really hurts when your like fingers and toes
Yeah,
unthaw. And I'm like, yeah, it was
probably.
so painful. I was like whining in the car. I'm like, ow, 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 ow. You know,
Oh
like,
god. Yeah.
yeah, not
Um,
good. Doesn't feel good.
no. Uh, it says the details seem pretty miraculous, although University of Minnesota professor of emergency medicine, David Plummer, says that this kind of thing happens occasionally. So this is where he like breaks down kind of what normally happens in this situation.
Yeah.
He's an expert at reviving people with extreme hypothermia. The article said
Wow.
there's no real data, but he's handled about a dozen similar cases over the last 10 years. So, this is what he had to say. As a person cools down, he explained, their blood flow slows way down and their body requires less oxygen. It's like a form of hibernation. If their blood flow
Um,
increases at the same rate as their body warms up, they can often recover. Uh,
huh.
he said, quote, we have patients that you can knock on like wood. They feel rock solid frozen. That in no way dissuades us from the resuscitation attempt, and we do have a track record of success with that. In
Wow.
emergency medicine, Plummer said the dictum is that no one is dead until they're warm and dead. So, like, they always try and warm people up, I guess.
Okay, so like I guess
Yeah.
the idea being something like if the you can get the blood flowing as
Yeah.
quickly and I don't know at the same rate as they could get everything else unthawed, then it's gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
Wow.
but it's still like this is still kind of considered a medical mystery because the fact that Hilliard's body felt solid is a common sign of severe hypothermia as muscle
Mm.
rigidity increases to such an extent it can often resemble rigor mortis. The stiffening that happens to a dead body. You were so like right on the money. You're like hibernation and rigor mortis, and I'm like, Alanna, I'm so proud of you. Uh,
This reminds me of
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah.
I can't shut up my mouth.
Um, Yeah, they said that, or he said, sorry, the strange part of Hilliard's case is that she made her a full recovery, and when these days doctors use a special device that pumps the patient's blood through a heater and is able to warm their vital
What?
organs from the inside. But back in the 1980s, in a rural Foston hospital, all they had were some heating pads and what they said was a lot of prayer. Like everybody was basically praying. Um, yeah, so
Right.
even with their fancy medical machinery they use now, it's still kind of a hit and miss. And normally people don't make a full recovery like she did, let alone the fact that it was like in the 80s and they were just using like heating
Yeah.
blankets.
And not some fancy
Um,
thing that heats up your
yeah,
blood.
I was like, what? They basically do they've like a fucking blood transfusion, but it's your own blood, but it's just warmed. Let me warm up your blood for you.
Oh my gosh. This is
Yeah.
this is what the Rolling Stones get done to keep them young. Or whatever.
Yeah. Um the doctors, as I kind of mentioned, had considered amputating both her legs to avoid infection from the frostbite. So when Hilliard went home with little more than blistered toes that were numb for a while, didn't really say how long, it was national news. Um,
Wow.
There are people that take a very like church and like religious, it's a miracle kind of thing for this
Oh,
story. So
yeah.
especially in her small town, um especially amongst like her family as well, she ended up touring local churches, and she did a few talk shows, even one that flew her to New York City to tell her story. It was titled The Miracle Girl from Langley, Minnesota, or Langby, Minnesota. She said she
Langby.
was on the Today Show. She was interviewed by Tom Brokaw. I took my mother on
Okay.
that trip. That was fun. She was also even featured on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
I've been rewatching some of that.
Yeah, you might run across her episode then. She was like interviewed for it, I
Dang.
guess. Uh
I wonder if
once
that's why it sounded familiar.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
might
Or
have
if it's
seen it
been,
through there then.
yeah. Or on a random podcast, because I'm always like, where have I heard this? And then it's so hard to know.
Yeah. Uh
Huh.
Yes. Once the attention wound down, Hilliard said the experience didn't really change the trajectory of her life. She said she kept waiting for something dramatic to happen. Almost everyone she
Oh,
knew told her she was saved by a miracle, and that those things are supposed to happen for a reason, but she said her life since has been normal. Uh, I found a
okay.
few updates. One of them was I liked, because I always like stuff that has like the person talking themselves or like little quotes.
Yeah.
Um, so they said she got married and has kids. She ended up getting divorced later. She had
Okay.
moved to Cambridge, Minnesota, and works at Walmart. I don't know if that's still true, but I mean,
What?
nice. Yeah. Uh, Said things might have turned out differently. Hilliard said if she remembered the 6 hours that she spent frozen in Nelson's yard, and people often ask her, like, because she was so close to death, if she had seen anything like the light and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, she said, it's like I fell asleep and woke up in the hospital. I didn't see the light or anything like that. It's kind of disappointing. So many people talk about that, and I didn't get anything. I like to think because she
Oh,
wasn't as
okay.
close to death as maybe people make it out.
Yeah.
But
And just because, like, she hasn't, like, gone out and cured cancer or anything doesn't mean that she wasn't
yeah,
saved for a reason, I don't think, you
but no,
know?
she's still like, she got married, she had kids,
Right? Those kids
and
wouldn't have existed if
everything.
you had died that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. She still got to have a whole life. I'm sure her parents were thrilled. She was only 19 when this happened. Like,
Oh, wow.
um, yeah. What's really interesting is that she has no lingering health issues of any kind from the ordeal. Like, nothing happened basically.
Huh.
Um, these days she doesn't spend much time thinking about that night in 1980. Lots of sources just said she just bundles up and doesn't drive on icy back roads late at night. Um,
Okay, yeah. I wondered. It wasn't traumatic enough for her to even warrant moving to a tropical island then.
yeah. Uh, I
Whereas
I
I'm running to
liked.
do that every Edmonton winter.
Yeah, I do
Get me
too.
out. Oh.
What I wanted to leave it with that I also thought was kind of interesting is that I think it was the one that was talking about that doctor who was talking about like what happens to the body. He said that she
Hmm.
is the still, maybe, I don't know how accurate this actually is. It said in the article that she's still the only known person to ever come back from being quote unquote frozen with zero permanent injuries. Like nothing
Oh,
amputated,
wow.
no health problems,
Yeah.
anything. Only
She
known
didn't
person that's
lose
ever
a
happened.
toe. Right.
Yeah, if her legs were like completely black, like she
I
really should have
know.
lost like all of her legs and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
even that guy. I think I talked about him in my segment of our last medical mystery type one,
yeah,
the Iceman guy, Wim
yeah,
Hof, who yeah he had trained and stuff, and could withstand a lot of extreme temperatures, but even had to quit one thing or whatever because of frostbite or whatever it was. It wasn't like he was
Yeah.
impervious to it completely, even though his body could do some incredible things. Yeah, he was on
Yeah.
Russell Brand's show actually. Sometimes
Oh,
Pat
really?
listens to Russell Brand. Yeah, he's a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting to hear him talk in person. Wim Hof. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jean, it said the now mom of 3. So she had three great kids, I guess, which I love. This is what she had to say, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because some of the other sources just kind of said, yeah, and then she was like discharged and now she lives here, and that was kind of it. One of them
Right.
said
Maybe
the
she's been
first
private.
Yeah, it seems like she's been really private. It This was part of like relearning how to walk and stuff. She said the first week
Mm.
was tough. I remember being in pain, feeling like I'd run a marathon without training. She said she felt very
Oh,
stiff
okay.
and sore. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't like nothing. She didn't bounce back like immediately. She still like I said, had to relearn how to walk and stuff like that. Um,
Huh.
I guess I didn't keep it in my notes, but one of the sources was talking about how different animals are adapted to survive like hibernation or um
Oh, yeah.
to survive even if it looks like their body is frozen, they're actually not, and it's normally
Right.
there was like I can't remember what one of them was. It said they basically uh have like a natural antifreeze that they flood their veins with, and it stops their blood from freezing.
Oh my
Um
God.
and that will keep them alive. And then another one, I think it was a frog or something, it said that they flood
Frogs. Yeah.
their body with like glucose and it keeps their blood from freezing. So I guess that's
Ah.
basically what frostbite is it's your like the moisture in your body, especially in your blood, freezes, and when it expands it like basically like explodes, and then it causes everything around it to
Oh.
start dying, and that like makes it turn
Oh.
black or something. So
Wow.
it's really hard to come back from that because you're basically like destroying your veins, and like you're making ice inside your body because it's freezing solid. So
He had ice in
yeah.
his veins. Yeah, you definitely don't
Yeah.
actually want that. Okay. I'd
Yeah.
heard about frogs having some gnarly
Yeah.
hibernating
There's weird
frozen
stuff with frogs
bullshit.
always.
Yeah.
Frogs are so weird.
It's like,
But yeah, some of the
uh-huh.
people were even saying like because she bounced back from it so well and was out there so long, that maybe she has like something unique about like her blood chemistry or something like that they didn't really test
Yeah.
back in the 80s, that made her just like more likely to have survived this than other people. But who
Right.
knows?
Yeah, it's interesting. It didn't seem like, one when you're like aware when you're being helped, like third man syndrome and stuff, where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then like basically a guardian angel kind of helped me through it or whatever. It's like, no.
Yeah, they said that like the family basically just like looked out into their yard the next morning and were like
Oh,
there's like a lump in our yard, and then
oh
went outside and
God.
were like, who is this? Like there's somebody in our yard. Like
Crazy.
yeah. Yeah. But I thought it was pretty interesting when I ran across it and was like, I'm gonna save this and we'll talk about it. And then it just so
Yeah.
happened it was really fucking cold lately, and I
True.
was like, ooh, I know somebody that survived freezing. It's like we can
Yeah.
survive too.
I love a
But
good survival story because it's
yeah.
not called a survival story unless they went through something crazy. So they're always going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't hear that one. I feel like it's niggling at the back of my mind now. Like I might have heard it somewhere, but so long ago that I can't even remember. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those where I'm like, yeah, I love it. It's not something I've
Yeah.
heard
I thought
10
it was
million
pretty
times.
interesting.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll take a quick break Oh, I was gonna open our thing with a fun fact, but then I forgot to do it. Do you want to hear it before we go to break?
Sure.
She's like, nah, no. Um,
Nah. Goodbye. No.
I know I still have this like big list that I'm randomly like, oh yeah, I should read stuff from this. Then this caught my eye. It said, figging with an F, figging is a practice wherein ginger root is inserted into the anus or vagina. Fun fact.
Sounds incredibly painful. Is this raw ginger? Is that not just the worst?
Yeah, ginger root. That's like right out of the ground, I guess.
Fuck.
Yeah, it says in ancient Greece, slave owners used figging to discipline female slaves. They would skin a ginger root into a phallic shape. The insertion causes an intense burning sensation and discomfort.
Yeah.
The practice is mortifying, especially when it could last for an extended period of time.
I feel like I had heard of this before, but I have no
So
idea how.
yeah, who thinks of these things? And then, especially when like food and stuff was so hard to come by, you're gonna waste it by doing that.
Shoving it up somebody's butt.
Oy.
Yeah.
Anyway. And on
Awful.
that note,
Yeah.
that sounded
Wonderful.
Australian. And on that note, we'll be right back. Okay. We are back. We're so back. And still wondering how long this one's gonna be. When we're short-winded for us. Mine was like half the pages it usually is, but there wasn't a lot.
Mine was like 2 pages shorter than it normally is. So
I thought you meant like 2 pages overall, but mine was only like 3 pages overall this time.
yeah, yours is normally way longer than that. So
yeah, 6 is normally short for me.
yeah, I normally do like 5 to 6 pages. So for me to only have 3.
Right? And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not like you like necessarily set out to make it a certain amount of pages, but you get used to telling a story in a certain way and having a certain amount of details, I think, and then you just feel like you have to have that. I don't know.
Yeah, you're like, this will take about this long. And
true. Yeah, you can't read 10 pages in an hour.
no, it's hard to.
No. I was quick aside. No. I was reading my Outlandish companion, or yeah, it's the companion book to the Outlander series.
Mm-hmm.
And the author was saying that she does read some stuff, like there's a thing where you can volunteer to like read manuals and stuff for like blind and visually disabled and people like that and whatever. And they're like,
Nice.
wow, you read really fast. Like, would you read one of your books? Even though it's like not the typical thing. Like usually it's supposed to be like scientific manuals and stuff for this like reading for the blind program or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And she's like, so even I know that reading it, it's like, even at her like 240 words per minute or something, it still takes like 32 hours to read Outlander or something like that out loud.
Jesus.
It's like, oh my god.
Wow.
Oh,
That's a lot.
isn't that crazy? And I'm like, I literally choose to read out loud books to my spouse. Now I'm curious how fast I could read out loud.
I don't know, when I'm reading out loud, I'm not normally absorbing a whole lot of what I'm saying.
No.
Like when I was a kid, I would just be reading it and I'd have such bad anxiety. I'm not actually absorbing anything that I'm reading, like the popcorn reading or whatever they used to call it.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know exactly what the point of that is. Because if you're comfortable with it, it's not going to bother you. But if you're not, that's just going to be
uh,
horrible.
I was definitely one of the kids that
Yeah.
was trying to like read ahead and figure out which paragraph was mine and start practicing it. Uh, and
Nice.
that's all I would do. And the worst teachers ever were the ones that would randomly select people. Be like, you read the next paragraph. Because it was like you
Yeah.
couldn't figure it out. Uh, and I also, when people
Wow.
are reading stuff out loud to me, if I don't have those words in front of me to follow along, I'm not absorbing any of it. Like,
So every time I tell you a story, no. Kelsey's like, I'm hanging on
no,
by a
I
thread. No, I'm just kidding.
I have to do good, but if I zone out for any length of
Oh.
time, I'm like, it's over.
Oh, yeah. It's very easy to. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like I'm one of those people that I can't hear words unless the subtitles are on. I'm one of those people now. It's like I need subtitles or like
yeah. Maybe it's just like it's something else to focus on when it's just words. Because, like anybody, you're like teachers, they have to lecture about stuff and they have to keep your attention because when it's just words, it's like just that much harder just to keep your
yeah.
attention, I think.
Yeah, I didn't get used to like watching anything with subtitles until I moved out with my
Yeah.
roommate and she watched everything with subtitles and I got so used to it. I was like, I need to. Like, I can't go back. I go with my parents and I'm watching their Netflix
Yeah.
and I'm like, where's your subtitles? And they're like, or if something has subtitles on, they're like, turn the subtitles off. And I was like, no.
I mean, it can be
Like,
very helpful. I do. I'm with you
yeah.
there. And
Mm-hmm.
there's especially times when people have accents or talk low or
Yes.
like some of the Scots murmuring in Outlander, and I'm like, what did they actually say? I don't really even know.
Yeah. Sometimes it tells you what the
Yeah.
background conversations are. Uh,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I like
sometimes they speak
those.
in another language and don't subtitle it, and you're like, well, guess I'm
Yeah,
not
then they
privy to
really
that.
don't you want to know. Sometimes they do tell you though, and they don't normally reveal what that is, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
get
So what's up
I
with
get let in on the secret.
that?
But
Yeah. Um, okay, so this one is uh different than yours.
different.
Different, but has some similarities, I will say.
Okay. I'm
Uh,
intrigued.
I don't know. I'll point out where what I mean when I say something sounded similar because it is
Okay. It's
different.
different.
um, different. It's at a different place. This one's in out of Brazil. Um,
Ooh,
yeah.
nice.
So forgive my pronunciation. uh, it's the case of João Prestes Filho. That's the name of the guy. And I don't know what's harder to
Okay.
say, that or the place. It's also called the Aracaraguama incident.
Oh, does not ring
Maybe?
any bells. I don't think I've heard of this before.
Aracaraguama? Oh, yeah, it's hard. Okay. Yeah, it's out of Brazil from 1946, so it's an oldie, but a goodie.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. It's March 4th. It's Carnival season. Woo! A time of festivities throughout the area, and most people are making the most of it, gathering in the towns and the villages to celebrate and make merry. But that's most sociable people, that is. This guy's gonna remind me of my spouse here a lot.
Okay.
Because João Prestes Filho, hated such noisy, crowded events and would much rather spend the day fishing with his buddy than going into town to celebrate with his wife and 5 children.
Yeah.
I mean, it does sound more serene if you had to compare
Yeah.
the two. Also made me think of Jim Gaffigan because he is the comedian that talks about food but also has 5 children, so he does have jokes about that where he's
Ooh.
like, people ask me what it's like having 5 kids, and instead of just being like, oh, it's a miracle, I'm like, it's like drowning with 4 kids and then someone hands you a baby or something. Like, he's very
Oh my god.
honest. Yeah, like he's like,
Jeez.
it's not stressful. But also
Yeah.
hot pockets.
And probably lots of craft dinner, and that's
Yeah,
what I do.
no.
Just like craft dinner it up.
Oh, no, true. But like the one he always talks about is hot pockets. Anyway. I liked Gaffigan. He's been in a few movies now, too. And he wasn't bad, if I'm being honest. Can't remember them right now. But they were good. And only one of them, he was like a funny guy. There was one where he plays a guy who has like 2 families and he's been hiding it, obviously, because you don't usually have 2 families in one. Yeah, like you have a secret family. Yeah. Anyway, so Zhao's wife goes out with her brood, and as well as most of the people from the village, they went to this nearby place called San Rock. I guess a bigger village or city or whatever town, about 7 miles away. So, leaving the house, she was locking the door behind herself, wrangling the 5 kids, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not worried about her husband who's out fishing.
He's an adult. He can look after himself.
That's true. So Zhao, who is, yes, an adult, he's 44 actually. He goes out with his buddy, Salvador dos Santos, presumably to sit in relative silence on the Tiete River as they fish. Maybe drink some beer.
Yeah.
I don't know. So later they get done, they put their catch and all their fishing stuff in their little horse-drawn cart and make their way home. So he gets home and then he finds he's locked out. He hadn't been left a key or whatever. And he's tired and he's hungry, so he looks for a way into his house.
Gonna break into his own house. Nice. Classy.
Yeah, and it's dark. He has to climb in a window, but like this whole village apparently has no electricity, so
damn. Okay.
Skulking around in the dark. He comes in and then he's like hungry, and he decided he's gonna take a bath to wash all the fish stench off, I guess. Which, I mean, fair. I guess you'd want to like get that done before you eat, or else.
Yeah.
But he has to start heating up the water manually, I guess. Whatever on the stove, I'm not sure, but when he's doing his thing back and forth, he passes by a window and he stops in his tracks as he feels almost like eyes on the back of his neck, kind of thing.
Oh, hate that. Okay.
Yeah, but it's good atmospherically.
Yeah, but it's so creepy. I hate that feeling.
Yeah. And not knowing when you're being watched. No thanks.
Yeah.
So, turning, he peers out the window and sees nothing at first. But then a beam of light suddenly scorches his own eyes with the sudden brightness. It appears to be coming straight down, beaming down from a glowing shape in the air outside his window. So he instinctively throws his hands up in front of his face, protectively, and he feels himself begin to burn.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, it's creepy. He fell to his knees in absolute agony as he felt his body burn from contact with the beam. His skin was on fire from his face to his waist, or so it felt to him as he grabbed a blanket to wrap around himself to hopefully soothe the pain.
Okay.
In a blind and barefoot panic, he flung himself toward the door, and he had to like open the door. I don't know, his hands were barely working, so I guess something said used his teeth too. I don't know.
What?
Sure,
Okay.
maybe it's just like the handle ones, like the ones my dog can open with his paw.
Yeah. I hope. I was like, who could open a doorknob with their mouth?
I know, but all the other little things, like when you can't open like a bag or something and you use your teeth.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
sure.
think it is one of the like ones that have like a lever kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that on like one thing too, so I'm not sure. But he was in a lot of pain, so it was like he was struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he sets out towards his sister's house, kind of hobbling this length of 2 kilometers away over these rocky roads. Singing, I love Rocky Road.
Rocky Road.
Won't you gonna buy another gallon, baby? Weird Al.
Is that yeah, Weird Al.
Yeah.
I love Weird Al.
I know too. God, I remember one of my classes, I think grade 8, we were like obsessed with the Britney Spears I Love Rock and Roll cover. It was like the thing that year.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
Break time. Yeah, just her cover of I Love Rock and Roll. I don't know.
No. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard it.
Peak Britney Spears. Wait. Anyway. I digress. Okay. So yeah, he hobbles over to his sister's house, and when he got there, he got in and managed to collapse onto a chair, saying to his sister Maria that he had been burned, and she, somewhat confused, duly, I guess, informs the local police. The village police chief, whose name was also Zhao, but Zhao Malaquias, probably saying that wrong. He arrived shortly after to investigate. He literally apparently witnessed a piece of flesh just fall off of Zhao's leg in front of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Gross.
It's
I don't like that.
Good. Nope. And Zhao was saying that whatever hit him, he was like, it was not of this world. That's what he kept telling them. So
yeah,
do with that what you will.
It's like fucking leprosy. Isn't that where your skin just falls off and then like limbs just fall off or some shit?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like the tissue dies
gross.
or something. Yeah, and you're losing pieces. Not good. But some parts like his hair and clothing were seemingly untouched, but elsewhere his skin had started to resemble, just less than dewy and clean. It was like red, raw, sunburnt looking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some later compared it to meat that has been allowed to boil for a while.
Oh.
Which that
tough
kind
and
of
dried out. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, falling off the bone. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
There was a meat comparison, I think, in yours too, because
just like meat in the freezer and stuff. How it tends to be really like solid feeling.
Solid, yeah. Ugh. It's an uncomfortable reminder that we're all just meat.
Yes.
Also, one of the movies we just watched because Pat was like, "Oh, Eli Roth." He talks about that movie he did, Green Inferno, which is like about a cannibal tribe. I kind of play. Oh,
Oh,
it's
that one's on Prime. I haven't watched it. It keeps coming up on my recommended
okay.
list, I think.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's always like recommended movies, and it's always fucking Green Room and like a bunch of other shit. Half of it I've seen, and I'm like, thanks, Prime.
The Green Inferno. Yeah, Pat's like, I've been wanting to watch it, but then I've been like putting it off because I know it's gonna be a lot. Because like he talks about like how body horror gets him going, Eli Roth and stuff, and he has Hostel, where he's got
Okay.
he's got some eye stuff in that one. So I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was gruesome.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very, very gross.
Yeah. I watched one you had talked about on the podcast here. I can't remember what episode it was, but
Oh.
it was a while ago. But you mentioned it to me. It was on my watch list. I had wanted to watch it for a while. Train Spotting.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
watched
when
that
we
this
talked about Train
morning.
Spotting.
I think you mentioned it like at some point
Weird.
or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's an
then I was
oldie for
like,
sure.
yeah, I just love Ewan McGregor. So of course I was gonna watch
Right.
it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was just like watching it before
That's
work, and I was like, wow, what a movie to watch right before I go to work. It's
talk
like,
about his
damn.
grittiest role, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
That's
It was good
also an
though.
uncomfortable movie.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
shit. I don't know. Just too much shit, honestly.
Drug movies always have shit. Oh my god.
Yeah.
There was a shit scene in the Green Inferno too, but that's all I'll say.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry, I got the frog in my throat.
So gross. But no, I had
Oh
wanted
man,
to tell you. I was like, I finally watched Train Spotting.
that's so funny.
Yeah, now I get to watch the second
awesome.
one. I thought it was on like Netflix, but when I tried searching it again, I was like, oh, they must have taken it off because I remember being like, oh, the second one's available on whatever I was looking at, and then I was like, oh, but I haven't seen the first one. I have to see the first one first. Now I finally saw the first one. Now
Yeah.
I can't find the second one anymore. So maybe it's
no.
already gone. It's like whatever. I'll
I
eventually
hate that.
watch
I
the
don't know if
second one.
I've seen the second one.
It just came out a few years ago.
Oh.
So yeah, they did it like really
Sometimes.
recently, like within the last probably 4 years at least.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah. Hard to top an iconic film. Like
yeah, it was really good. Yeah, probably like I'd say pretty for somebody who was never addicted to heroin. in my eyes,
right.
it seems pretty realistic to like everything and
Yeah. From what
them
I
just
remember,
like
me too.
nonsensically like talking to each other. You're just like, yes, when you're the sober person around either drunk or high people, that's
Oh god.
exactly what that feels like. You're like trying to
Oh
follow their
yeah.
train of thought, and you're like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, that's what I thought the entire movie.
yeah.
I'm like, every time he was sober and he was like, his friend was saying something, I'd be like, oh my god, this is the worst. Like,
Yes, we can pretty much all relate to that. That's for sure.
yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. It's like, yep.
I think that one was probably a book. Ugh, I want to say I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
at the end it was said it was based on a book by somebody.
Oh god, now I feel like an idiot. Is it not the Fight Club guy? That's Chuck Palahniuk, isn't it? I feel like a real douche right now, so I'm just gonna double check.
No, it was like Irvin something, I think.
Oh, Irvin Welsh, maybe. Train Spotting, 1996 film. I guess. That's probably it. Story by Irvine Welsh. Okay, yes. Sure, we know things. Also, I'd believe anything the internet told me, just like that thing I sent you that was like clickbait. The actor from
Yeah, the bear
Shameless, and
and Shameless.
yeah, they're like pretending he was the grandson of like Gene Wilder, and I was like, they look really alike. Yeah, I click on that. I totally believe it. Completely fake.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. You're like, and then he's not even in the list. And I was like, of course he's not. The thumbnail's never part of the actual list.
Right? What is that actor's name? I can't remember now. I'm sorry. I brought it up and then I don't remember the information. He plays Lip in Shameless. Which is a weird...
I'm spacing as well.
It's all good. Okay, yes, so the police chief came. They now take Zhao to the hospital in Santa de Parnaíba rather than risk traveling the poorly... Yeah, good. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck.
Finally. Somewhere with electricity, hopefully. No, that's... Sorry.
Yeah, oh my god.
I mean, we can't all live in Canada, right? We have mostly good healthcare here. But yeah, rather than risk traveling the poorly kept roads to Sao Paulo, that was their best bet, was to go to this Santa de Parnaíba. So there he was cared for as best they could, but his condition just continued to baffle the staff on site. I don't know if they had Dr. House there, but it seems like the kind of thing they would need him to figure out what was happening.
Misdiagnosing him and giving him medication and making it worse before he figures out what it actually is.
Did he do that a lot? I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I watched it.
I watched like almost the first season, and then I realized he did that in every single episode. And then once I figured that out, I couldn't watch it anymore. I was like, no! I was like, every single time he's gonna...
Later on, he has a whole team to guess wrong.
Well, he sort of had a team. He already had a few people around him, but I was like, I can't stand this. He's always like, it's probably this, and then give them however much of this, and then he's like, oh, Dr. House, they're flatlining. It's like, oh.
It's almost always encephalitis. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Always encephalitis.
It's the only doctor show I ever got into, though, because I know a lot of people are obsessed with like Grey's Anatomy and stuff. And I suppose that one's just a later version of the George Clooney one or whatever. ER. Wasn't that one kind of all about the doctors too? It's like more about the relationships.
I don't typically do well with straight like drama shows like that, where it's just like drama. It either needs to be like drama and comedy, or like some sort of like paranormal supernatural thing, or like a mystery, or a heist, thriller, something. It can't just be
super
be
soap
drama.
Opera-y.
Yeah, will not keep me watching.
No. True. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, his poor skin was like sloughing off, or whatever that word is that I can never say, where it's just like falling off of him. Not peeling like a sunburn, but simply kind of just like falling away in chunks. Yeah, what did you say? Leprosy. That's an interesting one I hadn't really thought of. But yeah, it's...
Oh, there's also another medical condition. They had it in the one episode of Hannibal where the girl has like that thing where she can't see faces, but then she also has her
not
skin,
face blindness like the guy on Arrested Development.
No, this is like a thing where people think they aren't actually alive, like they and stuff. It's like a whole thing.
Oh, like a really specific mental illness, and you You don't think
Yeah.
you're alive or something?
Yeah, you don't think you're alive, but you also like can't. You do kind of have facial blindness, but like and stuff.
Facial
Yeah.
blindness. Yeah, that's what it was on that show.
But yeah, there's
Very
also
spooky.
a thing. She has the thing they go to and like grab her arm and like the whole skin of her arm just comes off like it's a glove.
No!
Yeah.
A live degloving of the hand?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
disgusting.
her whole arm, the skin all just like slides off.
Ah!
Yeah.
I hate
It's a
that.
known medical condition. I saw it on another show. I can't remember what it's
Really?
called though. Yeah, it's real.
Oh, I hate those. I if we do another episode that's scary medical conditions, and like some of them are almost too scary to talk about, where like
Yeah.
you inherit them, so you can't really know, and then you're like, oh, by the way, now you just like can't sleep forever and you're gonna die, and you're like, wait, what? I
Jeez.
hate that.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
god.
awful.
Okay, well, let us know in the comments if you know which horrible one Kelsey's talking about right now. Okay. So back to this dude. His hands were deformed and red, and he was struggling to speak. He was basically just dying before their eyes, unfortunately.
Damn.
Yeah, and as he's talking, like, he's talking, but he talked until he couldn't anymore because pieces of his jaw were just falling away. The hours there were just torture for him at the end, and the orderlies and everyone that were around him also were struggling because they were just helpless to save him. The main medic attending him was rumored to have said after that it was like watching him just like decompose alive.
Damn. Oh, that's so gross and
Yeah.
just heartbreaking.
Right? And then yours, it was like her body was acting like it was dead before she was like gone. It was like full rigor
Yeah.
mortis almost. So crazy. um, but unfortunately, unlike in your case, Zhao was dead by 10 p.m. that night.
Jeez.
So it was fatal. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest. But I mean, his body had gone through some trauma by this point.
Yeah.
It's like, was that the actual cause? What was all this going around? And why were some of the symptoms, some of them similar to things like radiation poisoning? Some people pointed
That's what
out.
I thought. I was
Yeah,
thinking radiation with like the burns and then
right.
is it the radium girls that used to like paint those watches and stuff? They had problems with their jaw from ingesting the radium and stuff, and pieces
Oh,
of their jaw, their like bones were dissolving and like breaking apart and stuff.
ew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that one. It sounds familiar, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing they had a lot of contact with radiation.
Well, they were like ingesting it because they were like they after like painting each little bit of the number, they'd like lick the paintbrush to like make it into a fine point again. So they were doing it like hundreds of times a day.
Oh, painting with. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like
No, I
the
don't
what
know
they
that
used
one.
to make the glow in the dark like on watches and stuff, and then everybody
Oh,
thought it was so cool because it was like back like one of the first glow in the dark things they figured out, so like they would paint like their
oh
lips and
no.
put it on their faces so they could be like, oh,
Oh,
glow in the dark and stuff, but meanwhile their body's absorbing it and it's killing them.
oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of them when they just like, yeah, had poisonous things in a bunch of stuff like lead and
Yeah, still happens.
we didn't know nothing.
Yeah,
Ugh,
that's what I was thinking, like radiation, it sounded like.
radiation. Yeah, it apparently can include vomiting, diarrhea, confusion, burns, and even apparently up to bone marrow damage. I don't know. I read that in
Yep.
the treatment section. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm like, what website am I on? Mayo Clinic? No.
Yeah.
um, some even pointed to, the local folklore where there's something called a shit. I forget how to pronounce this. A boy tata, which is an old Tupi or ancient Brazilian language word, which means fiery serpent. So this brightly lit beast had stalked this part of the world for centuries. And one source said that João Prestes Filho's family had a history of brushes with these creatures.
Okay.
I guess, yeah. And as a child, he had a memory of being attacked by one, even. So,
Wow.
I wish I could find more about them. Maybe we'll have to look into them on a folklore episode. Fiery
Yeah.
serpent. But then, of course, some sources and stuff you like stretch and blame all sorts of things like lightning and ball lightning and things like that don't seem to fit to me. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, other people are struck by lightning. This doesn't happen to them.
I mean, yeah, and just like parts of you are okay and then parts of you aren't and you're falling off after.
Yeah, I think it normally has to do with like burns and stuff than
Right? Yeah.
some of the other things he experienced.
Yeah, it would have to go all the way through you. I don't know. Another local legend people pointed to was something called the Assombracos, or the ghostly spirits with glowing eyes. Um, but what was also pointed out in at least one source was that it's in Brazil, which seems to have a eerie number of UFO cases and stuff that come out of this area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's funny because yeah, this first one had even come up when I was first searching this one because all I could remember. Oh, so weird. I remembered I had heard a story where someone talked about a guy, and then it eventually got called this case of the melting man. Like this is sometimes referred to.
Oh,
Yeah,
that sounds
yeah.
like some like 1970s, like The
It
Thing, The
does.
Melting Man, The Invisible Man, The Fly.
Right? Well, it does though. So then when I'm trying to like find it again, and I can't remember exactly where I heard it. I had it in my mind that I heard it on Drinking the Kool-Aid podcast, but I
Yeah.
was searching their recent back catalog and not finding it. And I'm going, what the hell? And then I search it and then some things pop up and they look like the Swamp Thing and I'm like, I don't think this is the right case. Like, I'm not sure if this is the right. And it's on like, and then I find listening to Mr. Ballin, and I'm like, is this the same case? And then eventually I'm like, okay, I think it is. And
Yeah.
then it was weird because then I finished listening. I was like, okay, whatever. I couldn't find it on Drinking the Kool-Aid while I'll finish listening to their most recent episode. And then she covers it on the most recent episode. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is like a deja vu where I'm like, I literally thought I listened to this on this podcast where I was like listening, like looking through the descriptions of their back episodes.
Yeah.
I thought they
That's
covered it.
creepy.
It was kind of because I was like, I had a memory of Amanda covering it, and I'm like, oh, look who covers it, Amanda. And I'm like, but it wasn't them because I'm looking through their back ones and I haven't listened to this new one. And I was like, whatever, I must have heard it on something then. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of creepy.
it did weird me out because the minute I stopped looking for it and just like listened to their most recent episode, it was there.
Damn.
Ugh. Okay, so some of the other ones that have happened in Brazil include the I'm not sure if it's Vargina or Vargina incident. It's almost spelled like Virginia. Virginia is how it's kind of spelled.
Okay, you have to not be in the way.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by his cuteness. He actually wasn't being loud.
I know, but now he's rubbing up against the mic. Buddy, if you're gonna be on the desk, you got to be a good boy. Gotta be a good boy.
Is he trying to listen? Are you putting your head up? No, you can't hear through the mic.
Yeah. Oh, you're just gonna purr right into the mic, are you? Okay.
That's fine.
Like eye purring. I'll put my mic on this side. Maybe that'll work.
He's being cute.
We'll leave it in. Gordo will be background noise. He's just purring.
I love a good purr. It's very calming.
Yeah.
My dog just snores. So again, I forget how to say it, but the Vargina incident or Varhina incident or whatever was in 1996, and I'm sure I've come across that one before. It's been talked about on a few podcasts, and I'm like, oh, we need to have another UFO episode so I can cover some more of these.
Yeah.
That one was well known enough to warrant a UFO-shaped water tower there.
Oh, really? That's fun.
It is, yeah. I mean,
cute.
It's basically just shaped like a water tower, but they they paid homage to their UFO incident, I guess. There's also one called, have you heard of the lead masks case?
Lead masks? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a weird one where apparently it happened 20 years after this melting man case, for lack of a better term, also in Brazil. And it's where 2 Brazilian men were found dead wearing lead masks. And they were like really smart scientists, and I don't know, there was a bunch of extenuating circumstances that made it weird how they were just found both like wearing lead masks and like having notes saying that they were like waiting for something. It almost seemed like they wanted to be like abducted or something, and then they were wearing the lead masks to like prevent the radiation, and their bodies were just found like dead on top of a mountain or some shit. It's very like bizarre when you read the whole thing, but I can't remember the details right now. Yeah,
that sounds really weird. It sounds like a cult,
right?
Like a weird.
Yeah, the dead in mysterious circumstances ones, like the Somerton man, the guy found on the beach in his suit or whatever. They didn't know where he was from.
They figured out the Somerton man one, through like genealogy. Yeah, they basically say he just committed suicide now. Yeah.
Hey, don't take all the fun out of the mystery. It was really interesting how they like figured it out, though, I thought, and people were like, he had like the legs of a dancer, and he might have come from a family that, I don't know, there was a bunch of like, I always love those little details, that they use.
We still have the Lady of the Dunes. You could still do
her.
And then that one cool spy in, can't remember where she is.
I don't know, I get so excited about these cases. I'm like, yes,
they're like classic ones, though.
Yeah, where you can't figure out who they are or how they died or whatever. Some of them have alien like feelings to them. They give alien vibes.
Yeah.
Another one that happened in Brazil was called the Guaraparango Reservoir Man, who was an unknown man whose discovery revealed what looked strikingly similar to cattle mutilation. So I guess he was found pretty fucked up or whatever.
Damn.
And then they told a short summary of a case that again in Brazil, where this guy Rivelino Mafre da Silva, this crazy case where apparently he was just like abducted right in front of his 2 young sons and like never seen again.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, what the fuck, Brazil? Like, what is up with this? Is this
Yeah,
anything you're doing? Like, people are like,
that's
oh,
really
there's a nearby
bizarre.
naval base, but like, really? Or is it just a
There's
hot spot
plenty
for
of those.
activity?
Like,
Yeah. None of it makes any sense to me. It's true. There's lots of naval bases everywhere, and like I have no
yeah.
explanations for any of this, other than like this one seems like a UFO targeted him through his window, which is like just about the scariest thing I can imagine it ever doing.
Yeah, that's so creepy.
Right? Like you're not safe anywhere if that's the case. Ugh.
Did you guys watch you and Pat? Oh, what is it? No One Will Save You? I think that's what it was called. It was on
Yeah, I think
Prime, and
so.
the weird aliens that come in it. Oh, I can't remember
Like
her name.
the final girl, there's a final girl or whatever that makes it
Yeah,
out, or yeah, I was gonna say, is that a
yeah.
horror movie? Anytime you ask me if I watched anything, I'm always like, it's a horror movie. I always assume.
Yeah. At least a thriller. It's at least a thriller.
I almost always do think that. That's so funny. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because they
Some of
they are
them.
like kind of through the window all the time, trying to like get at her and watch her and all that stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks so cute. His eyes are like
Gordo's.
so big. Hi, buddy.
He's got cute eyes. He's angling for some cuddles, eh? I can't resist my dog when he looks at me in the eyes with
Yeah.
his big, beautiful eyes.
He uh
Yeah.
this morning he was laying on me for like probably an hour, and I was like, okay, we have like an hour and a half, we can cuddle. And then I was like, and then I have to start getting ready for work. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
He's like,
he'll be
I
by
don't know.
himself. The neighbor's gonna pop in and like feed him and stuff, but he won't get like much
Oh,
attention,
okay.
won't have anybody like hanging around. So yeah.
Oh.
We'll
He's never
see. The
lived with another
longest.
cat, has he?
Just Bailey for a few months, but that was
Okay.
it. I think they were only together for maybe a month and a half before we had to
Yeah.
kind of separate them. But
Yeah, I don't know if it's a thing with all cats, but I've definitely lived with some where they were like, "Oh, now that these cats are together here in this apartment that we all live in, we can't separate them because well, the one cat that we
yeah,
lived with, Damien, he would cry his ass off if he was the only cat in the house."
aw.
Yeah. I was like,
Gordo likes it.
"Okay."
He gets territorial. At first I thought it was Bailey that was like peeing and stuff on like the couch and blankets and stuff, but it's actually Gordo that was doing it. Uh,
Oh.
yeah, so I
Gordo.
think he likes them, but he doesn't like other animals being around 24/7, like
Mm.
all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Fenrir doesn't like any new animals or people once he's in his own house, his own domain.
Yeah,
He barks at
but
you every time you come over, at least for a couple seconds now, still. He's just a
yeah,
dick.
he's a lot better though. It's not
Yeah,
very long.
no, he definitely knows you. He's just always like, people coming in the house? Why was I not informed? You're like, okay, Ben, calm
I didn't
down.
have this in my calendar. I did not approve this.
Right?
You didn't talk to my secretary. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Well, we don't take him out that. He likes the car, but we haven't taken him out that many places either. So
Yeah.
it'd be
Not
different,
when
I
it's
imagine.
cold like this either.
Mm-mm. Nope. All right. Well, we will catch you guys next week. I don't think we said goodbye yet. We just rambled
No,
on
I
about
don't think
cats.
so. We will be back next week, maybe the week after. We aren't really sure yet. Depends how it goes. We might have to take another break while I'm on holidays, but our next episode we're doing some. Gordo, stop hitting the keypad. I worry it's gonna do stuff to the laptop. We're doing some more old-timey crimes, so we have like whatever you want to call it, vintage crimes, old cases.
Oh, I like that.
I know
vintage
mine's from
crimes.
like the 1800s, so.
Oh, okay. I
Dun, dun,
also
dun.
think I picked something from that century.
Perfect, yeah.
Nice.
So if you like those kind of cases, be sure to come back next week or next time.
Oh, they can be very interesting. I listened to whole podcasts where they do only ye old crimes, like the podcast Ye Old Crime. It's very
a very
and they're
fitting
very
name.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's true. All right. Well, keep it cryptic.
Yeah, bye.
Well, all our longtime listeners will definitely know that recording a podcast is not always easy.
No.
Nope. So you better believe, like, when we find something we like, that we're gonna probably stick to it and not look for anything else. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love Zencaster. When we tried it, we were like, okay, finally, I wanted to have the video, and it's up to 4K video, which is pretty effing cool. I can see every pore on Kelsey. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope not.
But it's great video and like just really easy on this one. So like once we stopped recording on our phones, I was like, yeah, this is the one for us. So even though sometimes our computers fuck up, it always comes through for us in the end, because we've never lost like a recording, knock on wood, and every time we've had to use it, it's just been really great and really easy, and everything's just recorded when we wanted it to, which is, it's a lot to ask for when you podcast as much as we do.
Yeah. It's nice that each of us has our own separate audio recording that you can download and edit. So it makes when one of us is doing something or has something, it's easy. You can edit that out even with the other person was talking, because you have two separate tracks that you can edit. Yeah, it's one of the reasons we love Zencaster. Definitely, it makes it a lot easier. And the audio quality is also a lot better than any of the other programs we tried using in the past.
Yes, it is the best. So go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code cryptic, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan.
We want you to have the same easy experience as we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Keep it cryptic. Thank you for listening to Castles and Cryptids. We love all our listeners and appreciate every subscriber, every new review, every listen, rate, and download. Our music is by Kobe Off Air, and our cover art is by Antonio Garcia. We are also a proud member of Darkcast Network, where you can find the best and spookiest of all indie podcasts. Follow us on social media, where we are at Castles and Cryptids on mostly all of the things, now including TikTok. Check out our bonus content on Patreon: Cryptid Clashes, video minisodes of your hosts making asses of themselves, Ask Me Anything, quizzes, other special episodes, and more. Starting at just $2 a month, you can get 1 to 2 extra episodes, depending on your level. We produce, edit, and research everything ourselves, and any support you can lend helps us to keep it cryptic.
He said, Gordo, fuck off.
He was He was good, even though I could kind of see his tail going for.
Yeah, his tail like smacked everything.